The dining table. It's becoming extinct. Now you're looking at me like I'm a little bit crazy. And you're thinking, I have a dining table. Everyone does. I walk past it every day. That's not the table I'm talking about. I'm talking about the table that means so much more. That when we start to talk, you tell me about your childhood and getting together with the family or meeting a loved one. You're at your grandmother's house. I'm talking about this table that's such a part of our lives that sometimes we don't even realize it's there. And that's the table I think is very sad to let it slip away. Let's try this. The dining table is a portal. The dining table is a stage. The dining table is a courtroom. The dining table is a romance. The dining table is our heart center. The dining table is what pops into your mind. Now, I wasn't always this big of a fan of the dining table. When I was a child, I would look back at that table that we had. I'd see it in black and white. Now, I know those walls were yellow, and the table was a white linoleum with these little gold designs on the ends. But somehow these photographs that I come up with are all in black and white. But that table was where I learned so much. My brothers and I did our homework at that table. When my mother cooked dinner, I learned the social graces, how to have a conversation, table manners, or lack of them in my brother's case. I learned it could be a courtroom, and depending on my parents' mood that day, I could be convicted, whether I was guilty or not. And there's nowhere to hide at that dining table, is there? We have to sit there until we were excused. And that taught me how to survive in my family unit. Now, all families have drama. What is it about families that brings out some of these things when we get together with the family of years ago? They just kind of bubble up, don't they? And that's where the dining table is our stage. It's our theater. It's our lives. But we had a lot of drama at the dining table growing up. See, my mom was an introvert. She really didn't like to have people around. And she didn't like to cook. She wasn't happy about doing it. My dad would come home tired from work, so you can kind of see this dynamic building. We didn't have people over for dinner. My parents had moved when I was really young, so our families lived far away. I grew up thinking that table was just for us, that nobody else could be included. And then I started to look around. I had friends, and I went over to their families. And it was really interesting that everybody's family is a little bit different. And I learned a lot from that experience. But then, when I turned 16, I went to a new school, and I made new friends. And I had the privilege of being adopted into one of my friends' families. Their table was a revelation. I had to read the newspaper, know current events, and be prepared to talk about it. I had an opinion. Who knew that? You know? We talked about vocations, finances, life, what it was like to go away to college. This table opened my world. And this table was inclusive. Everyone was welcome. We dined in the formal dining room with silver, china, candlelight. It was beautiful, and unbeknownst to us, we were taught the dance at the table, the rituals, and how beautiful that can be. Now, I'm bringing back some memories here that I've had, and I'm hoping that you're kind of looking at your memories. They're powerful, aren't they? Memories are so powerful. But think of your favorite memories. Are you alone? No, we're with somebody. We're with friends or family, a lover. And that's what memories are, because if we don't make these memories, we miss out. And that's why I started calling it the art of gathering, because it's not just food. Food is a tool for communication. What makes us feel so attached to food? I believe it's that gathering around the table. Now, I am so grateful that somehow along the road, I realized I didn't have to live in that black and white table, that I could be an inclusive entertainer. I could have people around. And I went off to college, and I experimented with this, but I had a gift. My grandmother lived 30 minutes away from where I went to college, and I had a car. I could throw my laundry in that car and go spend evenings or a weekend with my Dodie, and that's what everybody called her, was Dodie. And she was a fabulous cook, but more than that, there was always somebody at her house. Aunts, uncles, cousins. I could take friends. People would just drop by. She fed everybody. Her table was loud, inclusive, and fun. And she taught me so much about how I could have a table. She taught me a few dishes to make that I was comfortable with, it, not to stress myself out. All of these little things that made me realize that because the table in my childhood wasn't exactly how I wanted to carry that through, that I could be inclusive with my table. Now, what keeps you from gathering with the people you love? These days, we don't have a lot of time, do we? No. And sometimes it's just too much trouble to cook a dinner and have somebody over and clean up afterwards. Or maybe we're just not used to doing it. We're not that confident. And then we have the phone. So much easier to text somebody rather than talk to them, isn't it, anymore? And then we can look and we can see somebody's social profile. And I bet you took a picture of your dinner last night and posted it on Instagram. Or you went to a show, a really fun show yesterday, and I can see that. So what do we have to talk about? I mean, we know everything. And this is where I find our dining table really in trouble. This is where it can be instinct. We're designing spaces with less and less room for that table. We've got a kitchen island, and that's where we eat. Or if we're alone in front of our computers, or with our phones, even if we're with somebody. I bet somebody checks their phone during the dinner. We're not really paying attention to each other. I don't want to go to the Smithsonian Institute and see my favorite exhibit, which is Julia Child's kitchen, just recreated there. She's got this beautiful table in the center, and it's not aesthetically beautiful, but it's well loved. And I could see sitting there and talking to her for a few minutes. I would love that. But I don't want to see a little child pointing to that table and saying, "Mommy, look at that. What is that thing in the middle? There's no island in that kitchen." And sadly, I think that's where we're headed. Now, when I met my husband, my world opened up, because it turns out he liked cooking and entertaining as much as I did. One of my fondest memories is walking into the restaurant and seeing him sitting there in the evening we had after, because we met on a blind date. And we had the most fabulous time, and both of us knew that this was it for us. This was the one. And how does the romance grow? How does the romance start? We go to dinner. We have a drink. We have coffee. It's likely that romance begins and grows around the table. And as our relationship progressed, we put our passports to use. We went to places. And what do you do when you experience a new culture? The food, the table. Who goes to France and Italy and they don't eat? I mean, come on, that's what we go for. That's where I found it. We went to the Amalfi Coast for one of our big birthdays. And we had a fabulous trip. But we took some culinary classes in this little town above Positano, a restaurant called Il Ritrovo. And Salvador was the chef and owner. And his Zia Mary Lou, his aunt, they were our guides. We made all the regional specialties, had a fabulous time in the kitchen, and sat and ate them, overlooking the sea in their dining area. And I had so much fun there. They joked that I could come back and work. They didn't have to ask me twice. Steve and I laugh about the fact that we go on vacation and I get a job. It's not really work, it's a way of life. I go back there as often as I can and I come back refreshed, renewed, relaxed. And the memories from that and their table. The restaurant opens up about 10 in the morning, and we do the prep for the day. And I don't know what time Sylvana gets there, but she is always baking cookies. I walk in there, and you can smell those cookies. And the village is so tiny that there's no cafe on the piazza. So everybody wanders in, has a cup of coffee, a couple cookies. For the dinner service, Salvador keeps promising me I can work in the kitchen with them. But my Italian's really not up to that rapid fire banter in the kitchen when it's really in action. So they put me out on the floor and they say I wait tables, but really I'm more of a hostess. And I walk around and I tend to the tourists that come. I give them a limoncello, some cookies, bring them coffee. And they ask me, do you live here? Are you married to the owner? Do you own the place? And I really love that because it tells me that I belong. And then after the service, Mary Lou and I, we dry the glasses as they come out of the machine, as she calls it, the dishwasher. We talk about our day. And she'll tell me the fun things that we can do tomorrow. Fun things like go to the post office, the bank. It's all an adventure. We go have coffee with friends. Or I just help her at her house because I live in an apartment above her house. And this is my Italian family, another family I am just thrilled to be absorbed into. It's an adventure just to get there. I take a plane to Rome, a train to Naples, and then I get in the car and I go around these hairpin curves. Sun-drenched coast where the hills meet the sea, and then I see Positano rising up out of that beautiful, beautiful blue sea. It's jewel tones, pinks, reds, golds. It's truly one of the most stunning places on earth. And even the food is beautiful. The baskets of tomato, the basil, the vibrant vegetables that come out of the garden behind the restaurant, and they pick them every day. And then I think of the memories. I could smell those cookies Sylvana bakes. And I can see Salvador, another Salvador, the waiter, painting murals. He's an artist, and he paints murals on the walls between the service. And Ciro flits around singing, I love you, baby, to every pretty girl who walks by. And this, I've decided, is another romance. I'm living a dream. Now, I love my husband, our life, our home, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. So this must be lust. I found that lust for life at the Italian table. I've fallen hard for the language, the chatter in the kitchen, the family lunches with the staff, and all the times they've taken me home and showed me how they cook with their families and their lives at their table. I mean, it's just amazing. And I do my best to bring a piece of this home every time I go. I mean, I think about that, just the sun, the warmth of the sun, and their embrace around the table. And it really is magic. And then I realized that there is such power in this table. And as I started to develop this into a business, which is Monica's Table, I started thinking, how do I explain this? Because it's really more of a feeling, isn't it? I mean, when you talk about the table, it's like, it's a table, but it's a feeling. And then I started to think, recipes. Recipes are the key. We love recipes, don't we? I mean, Google tells us that we search for more recipes. That's one of the biggest categories year after year. And we love to watch cooking shows. And research will tell us that we watch these shows more than we spend time in our own kitchen. And you ask any chef what they cook when they go home, and they cook dishes from their childhood, the comfort food that they grew up with. I mean, a bowl of chicken soup not cure anything? I mean, so if recipes are the key, they're pretty basic. It's a list of instructions and ingredients on how to make a specific dish. But then we take it a bit further. Use it as a formula, a recipe for success, or a recipe for making memories. Because there's no wrong way to gather anyone you love around you. We just need to do it. And then going back to our memories, we're not alone. But if we don't make those memories, we miss out. I mean, mindfully gathering people around the table is an ancient art, but it's becoming a lost art. Think of what happens when we eat. We sit, and we take time, and we look at each other. We listen, and we talk. It doesn't matter if you fix something yourself, you grab takeout or order a pizza. Eating together is where we connect. And that is where the dining table is our stage. We fill it with those we love, and we create a life. And I so hope something that I've said here inspires you to call that friend instead of texting them. Maybe go to lunch or have coffee. Or invite somebody at home to your table. Or maybe it's given you the inspiration to throw that party you've been waiting for somebody else to have so you can catch up with all your friends. Or to travel to a faraway land. Or even just go to a venue you've been meaning to in your own hometown. But whatever it is, I really hope that you make the recipes that make your memories. Thank you.